Joining me right now is Georgia Congressman, House Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Doug Collins. And Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being here.
It's always good to be with you, Maria.
So, Congressman, you heard what Rudy Giuliani is saying. I want to ask you about the Bidens, and then I want to ask you about John Bolton. You know, a lot of times when you bring up potential conflicts around the Bidens, the critics of the president will say, oh, no, that's been looked at and debunked. But in fact, there's been no investigation around the Bidens and their work in Ukraine and in China, Hunter Biden in particular, right?
That's right. And one of the things that came forward in the impeachment investigation last year that Adam Schiff and Nadler and the rest of them was only focused on the president is even some of the witnesses discussed that there were concerns, even on the Obama administration, about the role that Hunter Biden played and the issue that was going on there. And this was something that was talked about. It'll be interesting now that we're past impeachment and the president did nothing wrong. It'll be interesting to see if the Senate can begin to take up some of these questions. Because as you and I've talked about many times before, the problem here is that we're not talking about just the president. The Democrats only want to talk about what the president did wrong, which he did nothing wrong. They've never really wanted to investigate what happened truly in the 2016 election, and I think in the surrounding events of that. So I'm hoping this is going to start that process. This issue, I think Lindsey Graham and others have said they're starting to look into this. So maybe we're going to start to get a complete picture of what happened.
You know, it's just unbelievable that the critics of the president do not want to touch anything in their party, whether it's the 2016 wrongdoing going into the election by the cabal of folks at the FBI and the CIA, or whether it's corruption around Joe Biden, who served in the Senate for 30-plus years. Donald Trump comes in, he starts upending everything, calling people out. That's what they don't like.
He does. I mean, look, this president does something that is none had done before in the way he has done it. Number one, he says what he wants to do, and he attempts to do it. Most of the time, he gets it done. The only time when the Democrats push back is the times that they see him actually working. He's did what he said for the economy. He's done what he said for the military. He's raised our foreign standard. He's talked about and worked at making sure that ISIS and the world leaders know that we don't play. You mess with America, you're going to be in trouble. These are the things that have made the Democrats upset because, number one, they still haven't got over the fact that it was he that won and not Hillary Clinton. It couldn't get over the fact that they had done everything in their power to stop that from happening. It couldn't happen. And now they're facing a 2020 election with a basically almost, it seems like a running clown car of primaries and candidates on the Democrat side who are not going to be able to beat him this year. So they don't want anything to talk about what actually happened. And especially, it's amazing to me, they say you can't talk about Joe Biden, that it's a personal political gain. Here's the problem is just because he's running for president doesn't mean that he is exempt from being examined in what he did while he was vice president, by the way, while his own son was part of this company.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. I want to get your take on John Bolton as well, because Giuliani also slammed Bolton as a, quote, backstabber after the former national security advisor wrote about Giuliani's involvement in the Ukraine controversy in his book. Watch this. What do you think is going on with John Bolton? This unpublished manuscript is claiming that you, Mick Mulvaney, Pat Cipollone were present when the president asked him to call Zelensky, paved the way for you to go investigate. Your reaction to Bolton?
I was never at any such meeting. 1,100%, never at any such meeting. I do not know what John is talking about, and I'm very angry at John, because John says I was a hand grenade. At no time, and during the entire period this was going on, did John Bolton, who I've known for 10 years and consider a friend, did he come up to me and say, Rudy, I'm concerned about what you're doing, I'm worried about what you're doing? Never. Instead, he says he went around my back to the Secretary of State and complained. Secretary of State says he didn't, by the way. So I don't know what John's up to. I mean, he's either a liar or he's a backstabber.
Congressman, what are you hearing about John Bolton and what your colleagues on the left want to do in the House?
Well, this is going to be interesting because, as you can rightfully see, Mr. Giuliani is very upset with Mr. Bolton. I think what we're seeing in the House is now Jerry Nadler, who cannot seem to find an investigation of this president he doesn't like because he does nothing else in our committee for the most part except very partisan bills and attack the president, has said that the House is going to subpoena John Bolton. It'll be interesting to see who actually does that, if it's Adam Schiff or Jerry Nadler, but Jerry Nadler seems to be bent on doing this. So I think what we'll see is if he's going to subpoena John Bolton, if John Bolton actually decides to come and testify. It'll be interesting to the president's reaction because, again, we're still dealing with the same issues of executive privilege and those communications around the White House that we had beforehand. The interesting thing about John Bolton is, though, is the revelations that supposedly appeared in the middle of the trial that we've got to get him in here for, which, by the way, Adam Schiff could have tried this early on. He said he didn't want to because he didn't want to go through the normal court processes, which is how you do this. John Bolton was in meetings with President Zelensky, and if he had all this knowledge that this was going on, he never brought it up in the meetings. This was never brought up in a discussion beforehand, never brought up in the testimony. We had that in the impeachment inquiry. So for me, it's very frustrating that a book's now being written and everything's being made at it. Really, all this is the Democrats saying, hey, look at the shiny object over here, while we failed miserably to complete our case over here. It must be somebody else's fault because we couldn't have done anything wrong. The fact of the matter is the president did nothing wrong, and the Democrats have failed miserably at trying to take him down or and go through this impeachment process, which was a sham from the beginning.
And you think that Nadler and Schiff are having a fight right now. Nadler's trying to do what he can because he didn't get the spotlight that Schiff got. But, I mean, tell me about that. And also, how are you expecting to get anything done? You were in a meeting the other day talking about a bill. It doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't, Marie. And this is the sad part about, Washington. I know y'all were talking about the budget earlier and the president's budget. And hopefully we're going to have to sit down and actually work on problems that matter to the American people. We've done this before, and it's time to do it again. But, yeah, it looks like there's a rift that has developed all the way back into the fall with when Speaker Pelosi decided to use the Intelligence Committee of all committees to become the Impeachment Committee. I talked about how this was wrong back then and that Chairman Nadler had successfully so bundled the Mueller investigations and others before the House that nobody trusted him with impeachment. So this is what happened: is you had an investigation run by Adam Schiff in the basement of the Capitol building, and then when we got it at the Judiciary Committee, we became nothing but a rubber stamp. So I think there's a lot of stress there between. You can see it publicly when Chairman Schiff tried to keep Chairman Nadler from speaking there at that last night of the impeachment hearings. We saw it one day in a press conference where somebody tried to ask Chairman Nadler about what he said about the Senate being corrupt, and Chairman Schiff said, no, I'll answer all the questions here. Here's the problem. We've got to get back to actually governing. This tit-for-tat stuff with inside the Democratic Party and with inside trying to get this president has got to stop, because the American people want to see us put a budget together. They want to see drug pricing taken care of. They want to see infrastructure taken care of. They want to see what the president was able to do with a Republican Congress in the first 2 years, which was pass tax reform, continue to cut regulations so that their lives are better, not Congress being able to talk to each other.
Yeah, I could see that. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
It's always good to be with you, Mary. Take care. Have a great day.